hey, let's take it all week because I can already see people are going to have their guy. People are going to have their guy. And there's matter-of-fact comments already coming in. Saw that Derrick Henry has gotten votes. Ingram has gotten votes. Richardson, Lacey. If you got a guy, you better get him in. Don't forget about Coffee, which you just heard, his TD run versus Auburn in 2008. A guy that sometimes gets forgotten is TJ Yeldon. Another guy that got injured that we sometimes forget, I think, is Kenyon Drake. Are those guys the best? And now, if you go in with statistics, Robert Saucier saying, how can anyone put someone other than Henry at the top? I don't think Henry is the best running back to ever play at Alabama. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. Now, do I think he's statistically the elite, the most dominant? Of course he was. But name one running back in the Saban era that wouldn't have had the exact same numbers if they had had that many carries. Name one. Take your pick. Take your pick of any let's list some of those guys. With Coffee, now here's the question, and this is where I give Henry kudos, but we don't know the answer to this question. Would the other guys have been able to carry the ball that many times? He was a workhorse, but I don't know that he was necessarily the best running back. And I'm probably a little more of a critiquer on running backs than others, than some people, because I don't just look at the statistics. But, James, do you think Ingram, Richardson, Lacey, Yeldon, Drake, Najee, Damian Harris. Damian Harris averages over 7 yards a carry for his career, people. He's on track to be the first 1,000-yard back, and is the only guy that I think has been not underutilized, because I think you could say that about any running back at Alabama, but he's not got his fair share of carries as a running back when you look at what he's accomplished. I'm making a bold prediction. If he stays healthy, he'll become the first running back in Alabama history to have 3 1,000-yard seasons. Think about that. Think about that elite company. And he's done that, James, with fewer carries than probably most of them. So, who's your guy? Who's your guy? I mean, Virgil saying, Martin, a topic. He's changing. Let me hold that one off for a second. CJ Watson says, Ingram also won a Heisman, had more time as a starter, bigger games as a freshman. I give best season to Henry, but overall career, I give the nod to Ingram. Go ahead.
I got to go with CJ on that. I mean, there's a lot I could go through as far as making a case for this certain running back or another running back, but as far as that total package of having a Heisman, winning a national championship, consistency over at least 3 years, I think CJ just about hits the bullseye on that.
Well, let me ask you this. Which guy ran behind the best line? I mean, Ingram was at that point where the Alabama was becoming the dominant team. Trent Richardson ran probably behind the best offensive line ever. But do you nullify what he did?
Now, I will say for Mark Ingram that arguably the best run blocker that maybe Nick Saban even to this day has ever had on the offensive line, and Andre Smith was just there for Mark Ingram for 1 year. But still, I mean, when you look at the and it's a fair point you bring up about the offensive lines as far as just as you haven't really had a whole lot of even average offensive lines at Alabama under Nick Saban. Right. But, I mean, you could just about make that case for any of these running backs, however.
But I think the worst offensive line has been the last 2 years. I think as far as run blocking, I think Damian Harris has played behind the worst run blocking offensive line ever. But you know what else hurts? How many yards does the quarterback have that would have gone to running backs in times past? What would have happened if Henry or Ingram or any of those guys had to split running yards with the quarterback? So I know Damian probably isn't going to get up there. And I used to be, man, I'm telling you, I was as anti-Damian Harris as anyone 3 years ago. But when I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong. I mean, I was wrong about Damian Harris. Damian Harris can play big-time SEC football. Now, you might be thinking that I'm a Damian Harris guy, and I'm mentioning him because he's my favorite. I'm not saying he's my favorite either. Who's your guy? 205-342-9904. You can get in on the conversation. Let me know who your guy is right here on the Blitz. We're going to be talking about running backs. You can come in on it today, tomorrow, all week. We're going to put up a poll question. We're going to talk about it. We're going to highlight over the next couple of days. We're going to highlight the careers of the different running backs. Don't forget about the early guys. Don't forget about Glenn Coffey and what he did behind the teams that he did it with. Don't forget the impact that Mark Ingram had in terms of his tradition. Don't hold Trent Richardson's NFL career against him because he didn't do a lot at the NFL level. Also take into consideration that other than Derrick Henry, they all split time with other great running backs. Derrick Henry had the unique opportunity of being a beast, but also being the only guy. And is that, to be held against him, or should it go to his benefit because he's one of the few guys maybe potentially that could handle it? We're talking about the best in the Saban era when it comes to running backs. Hey, is Najee Harris, did he do enough in the national championship game? Did he do enough in the national championship game for you to start putting him in that conversation? We've already given two of the Heisman, right, James? We've given two of the Heisman based off of his performance. And Najee, did Najee not have a similar type performance for a freshman? So does he automatically jump into that conversation? Now, I'm going to tell you, I like Brian Robinson, too, even though he's not had that much. You're too funny.
You set me up for that, Mark.
Yeah, so the question is, he's playing a little Hawaiian music. I think James is going to do that every time I mention Tua in the program. But either way, who's your guy? Who's your guy? I'm gonna give you a little time to think about it and expect you to call in tomorrow at 205-342-9904 or post your comments on Tide 1029 at Tide 1029 FM, at the Blitz 1029, at Martin Houston 35, or post your comments on Facebook Live, Martin Houston Personal on Facebook.